Wake up. It is another week here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now and all throughout the Now family of networks. This a post-holiday week, so hopefully everybody had a nice long weekend and also celebrated and paid homage to the holiday for why it's there, memorializing those we lost who gave the biggest sacrifice for all of us. So hopefully everybody now is back into the swing of things here. I'm not really, but we'll see if we can get that going here on Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Of course, Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services. I'm Mike Asti, and this is Mike Vukovcan, and we're going to talk about some more fallout of Robert Morris cutting a hockey program, more fallout, and that actually connects to somebody with a big name in Pittsburgh and with the Pittsburgh Steelers that now has involved himself in some way or another. Also, maybe if the Pittsburgh Pirates have found another building block outside of just Key Brian Hayes, who has missed most of the year, somebody else having an all-star season, is that player a building block? And then also Pitt nabbing a big recruit after losing players and swinging and missing to this point in the offseason. Mike, to get things underway, we're going to start the headline for really the past week, and certainly it's been so in our show and others. Robert Morris cuts their hockey programs. Many alums, many students, really the community, very upset. There's petitions. People are looking for at least answered. There's not yet been a press conference that we've been calling for. There's still a lot of questions unanswered, despite we know money was certainly a factor. But Kevin Colbert, general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, really with a Hall of Fame resume, been around the city for a long time, certainly a distinguished name with the Steelers, decides to pull out from the Board of Trustees. He's an alum of the school, certainly a big name, certainly a success story from the school, somebody they promote quite frequently. He has not talked about it to this point. We'll certainly have that coverage on Steelers Now if we get to do a Zoom with him. But what are your thoughts now with the fallout, with it getting really bad? Will we get any answers from this in terms of a press conference? Because it doesn't seem like we're going to. And does Kevin Colbert deciding to step away from the Board of Trustees trigger any further movement? Does that do anything? Will that swing a pendulum? Because obviously that's a gigantic name as an RMU alum in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers' involvement makes this a bigger deal.
Well, I don't know that it's gonna create more headlines because of the Steeler relation. But what it did was it got a lot more people to dig. And I shared this with somebody at Robert Morris yesterday. I won't divulge the name, but I realize this is a big story. I'm just kind of surprised at the reaction. And
it's been big. Even people that have nothing to do with RMU are heated over this.
I realize anytime you drop a program, it's going to get coverage, and there's going to be initial reaction. I'm just a little bit surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised at the amount of coverage and the diligence in which people are reporting on this. And one of these people we got to give Dejan Kovacevic credit for over at Pittsburgh Sports Now. Or over at DK Sports.
That's us. Our competitor. We're going to tip our cap to our competition for sure.
DK Pittsburgh Sports. He had a really bombshell story overnight in that things aren't looking good for the president of Robert Morris. He did some really good reporting in the fact that he's reporting that this decision, and this spurred Kevin Colbert's decision to resign, that this decision to drop hockey was a two-person decision. The board didn't even vote on it. They didn't allow a vote. And it was made by Chris Howard and the head of the board, Morgan O'Brien. Those people was made by those two people. They didn't take any questions.
Right.
And prior to the meeting, nobody on the board knew that this was part of the agenda. This just doesn't look good for Chris Howard. Prior to this, he had a pretty good reputation. He had a clean. His reputation was pretty high. This isn't going to help things. And I just don't know if do you think this is enough, Mike, to change the decision as far as the amount of negative publicity that is being thrown at the University of Rutgers. This is the most attention Robert Morris has gotten for anything.
Yeah, sad to say,
Seriously.
despite some success with programs, including the hockey program. This is really sad to say. This has got more attention than when these hockey programs have been successful.
True.
That includes tournaments. That includes hosting tournaments here at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. That includes success with the men's and women's. They've been one of the more successful programs in the university, which is why there's been so much animosity over this. But unfortunately, this has got more coverage than that. John Butchergrass, with a national name, former ESPN anchor, obviously loves hockey, been a big promoter of hockey over the years. He has been very vocal in this. He brings up when hockey programs have success, but not with this much fire. So this has got more coverage. And if anything ever was going to swing it, it's this much coverage and Colbert and people like that's involvement. However, I'm going to be skeptical here. I don't think it's going to bring the hockey programs back. Maybe they'll be brought back in a couple years. Maybe something will happen in the future. I don't know if they're dead forever. Maybe if there can be more money somewhere, maybe the money can be convinced to give them from the donation. Maybe we can do a GoFundMe. Something can occur. But if they're true in that this was a financial decision, which I could see despite myself, even being a former RMU employee and having connections there, being upset by this and not getting it right away, then I don't see how they bring it back right now. Unless they're lying about it being a financial decision, which I don't think they are. I think the real problem is, in which this should trigger this reaction, is it was handled so horribly. It's one thing if you have to cut a program, and again, this is a program they shouldn't have had to cut, the hockey program, but we get this. It costs more money. It's more financial. It's more of a financial endeavor to do hockey than it is football, basketball, many others, even if there's money that it needs spent. But not to do a press conference, have it be a quick vote, have so many people split on it. It doesn't appear that King and others, Maureen Galissi, who we talked about before, they certainly wouldn't have wanted this. So it comes off like Howard, who is a football guy, who doesn't like hockey that much, who has no hockey on his resume, had to make a decision between football or hockey, even if football's been way less successful, and says, why would, of course, I not cut hockey because I'm not a hockey guy, when a small school like that might be better off with hockey in all reality than football, who's not going to do too much for them. So
what I don't understand, Mike, is
I don't get it.
A very smart guy. Chris Howard is.
He is very much.
Yeah. He has a degree. He's very intelligent. I don't understand.
Yeah, PR wise, this wasn't handled well.
I don't understand, with being that smart, how you can do something like this and not understand that you have to hold a press conference. That people would just lay down and say, "Okay, we're going to drop hockey. No big deal." I don't get that. To me, when you do that, that makes you look guilty.
I don't think he realizes what all it affects. I think there has to be a presser, but I don't think he realizes what all it affects. It's the only D1 hockey program, or it was. The Penguins would love to have a D1 hockey program in their same city. It's hard to call Pittsburgh Hockey Town without a D1 hockey program. And that's the case right now. And high school wise, you're not going to get any of those kids to stay in town because they're not going to play club hockey at Pitt or WVU. So if they're good enough, I don't think he realized all of that. I really don't. And I think he underestimated, or he didn't care. I don't know him personally to say that, but it just wasn't handled well. There should have been a presser. Maybe there still will be. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a presser because he felt like it would split the leadership. Maybe that would be why they didn't want to do it, because it would come across like they're adversarial, which maybe they were. I don't know. This is going to have more legs though as the days go by.
I can tell you the athletic department had nothing to do with this decision. Anyone that wants to throw any shade at Chris King, you're going down the athletic director, Robert Morris.
There's no way he'd want this. There's no way he would want this. No. And again, this is going to have more and more legs. Kevin Colbert being involved or not being involved any longer with RMU certainly drops a bomb and a big name in there. We will see. I don't think it's going to change things, but it's nice that everyone's voice has been heard, because this was handled poorly, to say the least, even if it's a decision that had to be made. Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti here, mic'd up, presented by Martin Lawn Services. We're going to have more of that, I'm sure, here as the days go by. Before we move on, though, and connect to something else going on with a Pittsburgh team, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates, at least the pro team, we're going to first go to another college team in town, and that's the Pitt Panthers, who do land Mo Guy, a big-time recruit. We had that coverage over there at Pittsburgh Sports Now, tons of coverage over there. So, Mike, what can you tell us about this recruit, and what does this do for the Pitt program after a rough off season and swing and missing at a few other recruits that we've discussed before?
Well, I don't know much about him. I will take the opinion of Paul Zeiss, who his daughter Haley played at the Stony Brook women's team. She attended there. Yeah. She gave him rave reviews as far as, and we've heard the same thing. He's a 6'10", 215.
Has the size,
who was the conference defensive player of the year. That's what people are going to notice most about him, what he's going to bring to Pitt on the defensive side. He's a guy that his presence is known as far as blocking shots and rebounding, which is good. This is something they haven't had in a while. And surprisingly, his offense, he's a very athletic guy, but he shoots the three. Being a guy that's 6'9", 6'10", he's very good. He's actually might be a little bit more accomplished as far as scoring from the outside than he is in the inside, which is kind of, the Euro type influx.
Yeah, that's Jokic. That's the MVP of the NBA right now. That's his style.
And guys like that. So he's very athletic in the paint, though, as well. But yeah, I think this is a 1-year thing. If it doesn't work, it's a transfer. Big deal. And they're not locked up for a couple of years. But it gives it gives Capel another body down low to go with John Hughley. They still needed size, and it wouldn't surprise me. If I was Pitt, they still have 2 open scholarships left. I would try to attract, if you can get somebody that's worthy, another 6'9", 6'10" guy, because I think they still might be missing, one more big guy down low for some depth. But this, I think all these pieces together, and I remember you asked me this a while ago, what they're going to look like next year as far as, whatever. It was still too early, but now you've added a piece here, a piece there, a piece there. Are they going to be in the top of the ACC? No. But, if all these guys can come together, we just don't know how these guys are going to gel, work this off season. I don't know. It might not be as bad as Pitt fans think.
No, and the bridge to wherever they get might be better than some would have thought, or certainly it looked like for a while, with Xavier Johnson leaving, Tony leaving, Champagnie leaving the program to go pro and go to the NBA and trying that. So, yeah, it's definitely a positive for sure. We also talked about before, after swing and missing on some recruits and having players leave, that's going to have to be retooled, at least for a bridge off of transfers. That's the case here. You told me here before the broadcast here, and part of our coverage, call him Mo. So that'll be easy for Pitt fans out there. Call him Mo. Has a long name there. So if you can't pronounce it, that's okay. Call him Mo. He's fine with that. And he has the size. So a size with an outside shot will help the program rebounding wise. Pat Riley always used to say that if you can rebound, you have one leg up over everybody else. So that's what they kind of lost with players leaving, is rebounding. They can at least replace that, and there's a shot there. So we'll see. The opportunity will be there, because there's going to be certainly a hole on the roster to fill. He will play. Again, mic'd up here, Mike Vukovcan, Mike Asti here. And as we close up the show, Mike, the Pirates got some conversation on Sunday Night Baseball. They've still certainly been trying to putter along. We're still waiting for Key Brian Hayes. They've not been good. Now the bottom of the league after a little bit of a hot start. they're going to be one of the worst teams in baseball this year, but it's about the future, of course. And weirdly enough, despite this year being so bad overall, they actually do have a couple players that have had all-star caliber seasons. And this isn't even just in the bullpen. This isn't even just in the pitching staff with Tyler Anderson and JT Brubaker, who have been way better than some would have thought. And they probably would have lost 120 games this year if it wasn't for a couple of those starters, but also in the lineup, and a lineup that has mightily struggled. The offense has not been good this year. They have Adam Frazier, whose average has been over 300 most of the year. He has actually had an all-star season, a legit all-star season, leading the league in hits for a while this season. And the conversation on Sunday Night Baseball was that despite how bad this year has been, there might have been a blessing in disguise or a positive or some glimmer of hope there, because in addition to Ke'Bryan Hayes, who has been out most of the year, they have now found another building block in Adam Frazier, and that also goes along with Ryan Reynolds, who's had a solid year. Do you believe Adam Frazier is a building block, someone they should keep around and can build around and be part of the group whenever they win? Because I don't think anyone had really thought of him as that guy, despite how good he's played this year.
No. But I'll say that, but I also say that I'm not giving him away. I would actively be looking to trade him, but if I don't get what I deem as proper value, then he stays. The reason he's not a part of the future is that, unfortunately, I don't know, maybe this plays a little bit, but their first round pick last year, Nick Gonzalez, is second. He's a guy that's probably fast tracked to the majors. He's a second baseman. However, he hurt his wrist a little bit, or his hand this year. And he was going to be out. I think it was 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, which kind of hurts his which does hurt his development this season.
Right.
He's your second baseman of the future. The question is, when does he arrive? I think.
And can you do anything with Adam Frazier around the corners there? Because nobody else is really safe in terms of the defense.
He potentially is an out. He potentially, you might be right. He potentially can play left field, but ideally you'd want a guy back there that's. I don't know.
A little bit more pop in his bat. I mean, he's hitting 332, but the home runs aren't there. He is driving some runs in and scoring. He has the hits. He screams more of an infielder. I get it, based on what you normally would get offensively. But with Polanco gone and a lot of question marks in the outfield, it's hard to give up somebody hitting that well when the offense has been so bad. I think that's the issue. Even if he's not a power guy, you'd rather have him hit 330, even 310 or 305 and play the outfield than not be in the lineup at all.
I could be because of his age, because of the years he has under control on his contract, and because what he does as far as just being a guy that's a pure hitter, Freddie Sanchez type guy.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm okay with. I could be swayed either way of trading him or keeping him. I think there's a couple guys in the roster like that. JT Brubaker is a guy that you need 5 starters. You can't trade everybody, and you can't expect to develop everybody.
He's one of 2 legit ones.
Yeah. If you see this year that he's a guy that is a guy that's part of your rotation, whether it's 3 through 5. You need 5 guys, and I wouldn't actively be looking to just peddle everybody. Jacob Stallings, he's a guy I would want to move just because he's 31 years old.
His value is so high.
His value is so high. He's not going to repeat what he's doing, and I'd be looking to move him. I'd be on the fence with Frazier. It all depends on the value I get, and that's up to Sherrington and his team to decide how much we need to get for him and if our team's willing to do so.
Right. And you also could switch him in the infield if you rather keep him in the infield, even though I actually would rather the outfield just because there's such a gaping hole there. And I don't necessarily, kind of think that the offensive mode of where you play and what position and what you expect out of those guys is a thing of the past now, as long as you get it. But Newman's been so bad at shortstop, so that's going to be another hole. So the prospect gets one between shortstop and second, or he gets the other, or second and shortstop. And generally speaking, if you can play second, you can play short. If you can play short, you can play second, maybe even third. Obviously, Ke'Bryan Hayes has third, but there's ways to do this. I don't know if anybody, maybe even including Ke'Bryan Hayes, has a position locked in, guaranteed. We've seen all-stars switch position. Yeah, Ke'Bryan Hayes does. He got to be third. But, I mean, you get what I'm saying, that we've seen all-stars switch positions. I think you got to find a way. And maybe they'll get lucky and the DH will be a thing for the National League coming up here permanently. That was the case last year with the pandemic. That would make it easier because Adam Frazier was DHing against American League teams. He's DH'd as recent as yesterday against the Kansas City Royals, which is weird to see have an infielder. So they're clearly saying he's our best hitter right now. We got to hit him. So we'll see if that means he's around for the future. That'll do it for this edition of the show, but a lot more to talk about because a lot more fallout. I recommend hitting these sites, and not just PSN, maybe even Steelers now, based on what's going on with this Robert Morris hockey fallout. I never thought we'd be covering that over there at Steelers Now, Mike. That tells you this is a big story around town. And I don't think Robert Morris thought we'd be covering over there either. I don't think they realized where this would go. They kind of underestimated it too. So maybe this can be one of those examples during our, quote unquote cancel culture world and that type of world that maybe the people can force this. That would really be something. That would really be something. That would be legitimately be the fans and the students and alums doing it. And they would have reason to be very interested in how they drive the program. If they would bring it back, they would be very responsible for it coming back. The fans, the program would owe the people a great deal of gratitude. So the power would almost be on the people if that would occur, as weird as that sounds. That'll do it for this show. For Mike Vukovcan, I'm Mike Asti. For all of us at PSL and PSN, of course, Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services. Hit up Doug Martin at 412-849-58